It started with the sound of knuckles on chrome, a hollow tap 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 that made my gut tighten before I even looked out the window. My 2016 Harley Fat Boy polished steel, chrome exhaust gleaming under the morning sun, wasn't just a bike. It was my quiet space, my therapy, my one rebellion against HOA beige. And standing next to it, finger-poking the tank like it owed him something, was Tyler Hallowaker and Son, 19, backwards cap, smug stance, the kind of kid who never earned what he demanded, but always expected a handout. I opened the door before he could touch it again. Need something, Tyler? He didn't even look embarrassed. Yeah, my mom says the bike's gotta move off HOA property. But you're selling. I'll take it off your hands. I almost laughed. It's not for sale. And this is my driveway. He smirked. Driveway's technically common area. Section 8B, HOA. Bylaws. My mom said so. There it was, the family slogan. My mom said so. I leaned against the doorframe.com. Tell your mom she's wrong. Property line runs exactly here. I tapped my boot against the gravel seam where the HOA maintained asphalt ended, and my deed began. Survey pins don't lie, he shrugged. She says that survey's old. We're updating the rules anyway. Then tell her to send it in writing, I said, turning back inside. He called after me, you'll regret this, and stormed off. That's when I knew something stupid was coming. The next morning, I found a bright yellow HOA violation notice taped to my mailbox. Unauthorized vehicle on common property, it read. Signed by President Karen Holloway. She even underlined immediate removal required. I took a photo 8:17 a.m. and folded the notice into my folder labeled Wa Drama 2025. You learn to document early when you live under her rule. By noon, I heard another sound. Not tapping this time, revving. I walked outside, phone in hand. Tyler was sitting on my Harley. Helmet on, engine sputtering. Hey. My voice cut through the noise. Get off my bike. He flinched, grinned, and revved harder. Chill, dude. Just warming it up. Gonna move it like Mom said. Step away, I said, walking closer. Relax. I know how to ride. He didn't. The clutch popped, the bike lurched, and he dumped it onto its side with a crash that echoed through the coal-d-sack, metal on concrete. My stomach dropped. Neighbors peeked out from porches. Karen herself came hustling down the street in her pastel blazer, fake pearls bouncing. Tyler, she screeched. What happened? He pointed straight at me. He told me to move it. I kept my voice even. Actually, I told you not to touch it. And this, I held up my phone, is all on video. Karen froze, mid-stride, color draining. You recorded my son. Doorbell cam, I said. And dash cam. Both caught him red-handed. For once, she didn't have a comeback. Just that pinched, twitching smile people make when they realize the trap they set just snapped shut on them. That evening, I uploaded everything doorbell footage, even the audio of Tyler admitting his mom told him to move the bike to a cloud folder titled Insurance Plus, HOA Proof. Then I emailed a polite report to my insurance agent, ceasing the HOA board by morning. The replies started rolling in. Karen sent one line. This is being handled internally. Do not distribute any recordings. Translation. Don't show anyone what we did. Too late. Because by then, 2 board members had already requested copies of the footage. One wrote back, if this is accurate, she's in violation of her own HOA liability clauses. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just protecting her son. She was protecting her position. If word got out that the HOA president's kid vandalized a homeowner's property, she could be forced to resign, and I had the proof. That weekend, I noticed something strange. My mailbox had been opened, and the lid bent backward. A warning, maybe. So I did what I do best. I got ready. I installed a motion sensor over the garage, added an extra cam near the Harley, and slipped a GPS AirTag under the seat. If anyone tried to move it again, I'd know. And then, for the first time, I started digging into the HOA bylaws myself. Section 8B, the common property clause Tyler mentioned. Turns out, Karen had been misquoting it for months. It didn't say, driveways are common, it said. Shared access roads are maintained by the association, driveways, were explicitly listed as private property extensions. She'd been bluffing and getting away with it until now. I printed the section, highlighted it in neon yellow, and pinned it on my garage corkboard, next to the insurance email thread and timestamp stills from the footage. This wasn't just a petty dispute anymore. This was documentation. Chain of custody. Next time Karen came swinging her clipboard, I'd be ready with the truth, the law, and more evidence than she could talk over. I just didn't know yet how far she'd go, trying to bury it. 2 days later, the knock came again. Not at the door this time, on the garage itself. Sharp, deliberate, clipboard against metal. When I lifted the door, Karen was standing there with that politician's smile she used before every ambush. Her pastel blazer glowed under the morning light, like she'd ironed it just for this performance. "Ryan," she said sweetly, "I just wanted to clear the air. Things got heated the other day." "Your son tried to steal my bike," I said. "That's not heated. That's criminal." Her smile twitched. "Let's not use that word. He was just confused. I'm sure you wouldn't want to escalate this any further, especially since your driveway technically falls under shared HOA jurisdiction." I leaned against my workbench.com. "I read Section 8B, driveways are privately maintained. You've been misquoting it." Her eyes flashed for a moment, just a flicker but enough to confirm it. She knew I had her cornered. Still, she pressed on. "Well, we're revising that section soon. It's already on the agenda for next month's meeting," she said, tone clipped. "In the meantime, I suggest you store that motorcycle in your garage for safety." "Safety from who?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just gave me that brittle smile and turned to leave. That's when I noticed her phone angled slightly toward me, camera open, red light blinking. She was recording me. I smiled right back. "Recording for documentation?" I asked. Her smile faltered. "Of course not. That's ridiculous." "Good," I said, holding up my own phone, "because I'm recording too. Just for the record." Her face dropped like a curtain falling after a bad play. She turned on her heel and marched off down the sidewalk. I watched her go, the click of her heels fading, and thought, that's not the last of it. That night, I checked my motion alerts. At 1:12 a.m., a silhouette appeared in my driveway, tall, hooded, carrying something metallic. The camera caught the reflection of a wrench dot. Then, click. My floodlight snapped on. The figure froze, then bolted. The AirTag under my bike stayed still. Thank God. But when I zoomed in on the footage, I saw a detail that made my jaw tighten. A white SUV, idling at the curb, the same one Karen drove to meetings. I exported the video, labeled it 01_12 AM_ attempted tamper. This was no coincidence anymore. The next day, I stopped by the county clerk's office and requested a property map overlay for my lot. The clerk pulled up the plat records on her monitor and printed a copy showing, in black and white, the original survey lines. "Your driveway is definitely yours," she said, stamping the form. "No easements. No shared rights. HOA can't touch it." That stamp might as well have been a loaded weapon. I made 3 copies. One went in my file. One went to my lawyer, a calm, sharp woman named Dana Patel, who handled HOA disputes like chess matches. And one went in an envelope addressed to the HOA board minus Karen. Dana's first words after reading my summary were simple. "You've got enough to make her resign or settle. But don't move first. Let her make one more mistake." And she would. People like Karen always did. The next mistake came faster than either of us expected. 2 days later, I found a new HOA citation taped to my front door. Obstruction of view, improper placement of surveillance devices. Translation: she noticed the cameras. She cited me for violating HOA visual harmony rules. I laughed out loud. The rule, she referenced Section 1 for D, was about holiday decorations. Not cameras this time. I didn't just respond, I countered. I wrote back, per Civil Code Section 478.35b. Homeowners have the right to install exterior cameras for personal security. The devices do not obstruct visibility, nor are they subject to HOA aesthetic approval. Then, just for punctuation, I attached a still frame from the 1:12 a.m. footage, the hooded figure. Wrench in hand, SUV in frame. I ended the email with, "This is why I have them." Within hours, I received a text from Dana. She panicked. Let her dig. And dig she did, by the weekend. A special meeting notice appeared on the HOA bulletin board emergency session regarding community safety and unauthorized recordings. Classic Karen move. Reframe her mistake as my fault. But I was ready. I spent the next 2 nights organizing everything: bylaw printouts, video timestamps, insurance communications, the county plat map, and GPS data from the AirTag logs. At the center of it all was a USB stick labeled the Tamper compilation. If Karen wanted a stage, I'd give her one with an audience, and her own SUV in the background. The morning of the meeting, I walked into the clubhouse with my folder under one arm and a quiet smile. Karen was already there, standing beside a projector like a prosecutor, rehearsing a case she didn't understand. "Thank you for joining, Mr. Walker," she said, voice brittle. "We've had concerns about your excessive surveillance. Some of our members feel uncomfortable." "I understand," I said, nodding. "They might feel less uncomfortable once they see what the cameras recorded." I placed the USB on the table, and every conversation in the room went still. Karen's color drained again. "What exactly is that?" "Proof," I said simply. "And don't worry, everything's timestamped and filed. Would you like to start with the footage of your son, or the late-night trespasser with your SUV in the frame?" The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It was electric. I didn't press play. Not yet. Let her sweat. Because this wasn't just about proving her wrong anymore. This was about exposing how she weaponized her title and showing the whole board what she did when she thought no one was watching. And thanks to my cameras, someone always was. The meeting ended like a slow-motion explosion, no shouting, just a heavy silence that said everything. Karen tried to adjourn before I could plug in the USB, claiming protocol and privacy. The board didn't buy it. "Let's review the footage," said Mark Jensen, the treasurer, crossing his arms. "If it's true that there was tampering on private property, we need to see it." Karen snapped. "This isn't a courtroom." I smiled. "You're right. It's just a neighborhood that deserves the truth." And with that, Mark slid the USB into the projector. The first clip rolled the doorbell cam from that afternoon. Tyler, straddling my Harley, me saying, "Get off my bike." Then the metallic thud that made half the room flinched out in the front row. Tyler slouched so deep in his chair he nearly disappeared. Karen's face went pale, her jaw locked tight. The next clip, 1:12 a.m. Floodlight, blinding the figure with the wrench. And in the reflection off the SUV's window, Karen's unmistakable silhouette. The timestamp blinked in the corner. 1 hour, 12 minutes and 43 seconds a.m. When the clip ended, no one spoke. Not even Karen. Then Mark cleared his throat. "President Holloway, that's your car, isn't it?" Karen opened her mouth, closed it, then muttered, "That footage could be manipulated." Dana, my lawyer, stood from her seat in the back. Chain of custody intact. Metadata verified. Copies filed with the county sheriff's office yesterday. Heads turned. Karen blinked, stunned. That was the final straw. Mark folded his hands. "Effective immediately, pending investigation. We're suspending President Holloway's authority." "You could have heard a pin drop," Karen sputtered. "You can't," he cut her off. "We just did." By sunset, the whole neighborhood knew. The gossip spread faster than any HOA newsletter ever had. Karen caught on camera. Her kid trashed someone's Harley. She's done. And right when I thought it was over, she showed up again, this time in my driveway. The same driveway she'd once called common property. Now, she was just a trespasser. She stood at the edge of the gravel, arms crossed, trying to look composed. "Ryan," she started, voice low, "you've made a big mistake." I kept polishing the harleysmirror.com as ever. "Recording trespassers isn't a mistake." "You embarrassed my family," she said. "You humiliated my son." I looked up. "No, Karen. Your son did that when he tried to steal something that wasn't his." Her nostrils flared. "You could have come to me directly." "I did." "You sent a violation notice." Her mouth opened, then closed again. The sound of gravel crunching under her heels was the only reply she had. Then, out of nowhere, she snapped, "You think you're some kind of hero? You're just another homeowner who thinks rules don't apply." I set the rag down, straightened up, and looked her square in the eye. "The difference," I said, "is that I read the rules before I play by them." She turned to leave, muttering something about lawsuits, but the deputy's cruiser rolling up the street cut her off. Deputy Langston stepped out, tipped his hat, and said, "Evening, folks. We're here to serve a civil trespass warning, per Mr. Walker's report." Karen froze mid-step. "A what?" He held out the paper. "It's not an arrest, ma'am. Just an order to stay off his property until the board review concludes." She took it with trembling hands. Tyler, who'd been watching from the SUV, looked like he wanted to disappear into the upholstery. Langston nodded to me. "Nice footage, by the way. Made my job real easy." I just smiled. "Appreciate that, Deputy." A week later, the board held a public vote. Karen was officially removed as HOA president, citing gross misuse of authority and violation of homeowner privacy rights. Tyler issued a written apology, probably scripted by a lawyer, but it was enough to get my insurance to process the claim on the Harley's damage. By the next month, Karen's house went on the market. The same house she'd ruled the neighborhood from for 10 years, and me. I got elected to the board. Not because I wanted power, because the neighborhood needed someone who respected boundaries. Now, every time I park the Harley and hear that engine settle into silence, I think back to that first knock. The arrogance, the lies, the camera light blinking in the dark dot, and how, in the end, the truth made more noise than any engine ever could. Epilogue. Lesson learned: you don't fight HOA abuse with anger. You fight it with timestamps, bylaws, and patience. People like Karen thrive on intimidation, but crumble under documentation. If you've dealt with an HOA, bully, or entitled neighbor like this, drop your story in the comments. And remember, always, always hit record.